Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true.
From Tonight, a podcast about 8 seasons in a row. I'm Mr. Fernandez, and
I am Chris Wardner. Hello.
let's bat Tuesday on over through this one. This is the Gymnast show. Written by Monica Johnson, directed by Tom Trubovich. I'm sure Chris has facts about the two of them coming up.
I do. I have some wonderful facts on Monica Johnson, which is great because this is her last episode for the show.
That's awesome. I do know Monica's spoken about the show. She says some stuff about the show and her time on it.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's kind of neat if you ever look up interviews about her. She's really cool. Here's what the episode's about. Rhonda stops by Cowboy Bill's with a surplus date for Laverne. It's a handsome, well-traveled, and urbane ex-gymnast and circus performer Edgar Garibaldi, and Laverne seems smitten enough with him to go away with him for the weekend. But Edgar keeps calling Laverne by the name Louise. By the time Laverne heads off to the mansion for the weekend so that Edgar can teach her how to do the triple, in quote-unquote, and possibly take part in his act, she knows that Louise is Edgar's ex-partner, whom he was obsessed with and wanted to kill. With the help of Edgar's manservant Arthur, she stumbles on a poster featuring a face that eerily resembles her own and realizes that Louise was her identical twin. Laverne's not afraid she's stuck in the mountains with a killer. Is her goose cooked, or was all this just a big misunderstanding? Think of this one.
As far as doppelganger suspense stories go, I don't know. I feel like I'm more of an obsession man than this.
This one works for me way better than it does for you. I really enjoy this one. I think part of it's Adam West's performance, which just goes to the walls and it's gangbusters. Maybe it's because the plot is genuinely suspenseful. There are parts of it that are a little silly, true. But we also get some really great stuff in here from Rhonda. We also get some really great stuff.
Yeah, there are good aspects of it, but I felt like the whole core of the plot, and especially the middle portion of the suspense, thriller element at the old house.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me. I know I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to thrillers and suspense pictures, or I can be at times anyway. And it just kind of, I don't know, it didn't work for me in that it came off as silly but not fun for me, I guess is what it is. I just didn't enjoy myself. I just felt like, okay, it's just doing this whole, physical comedy of trying to hide, trying to get away from the poison, the paranoia and stuff. I just kind of was like, okay, and everything's going to be fine. It's going to be a misunderstanding. If they had actually pulled the trigger on it, then you would have had my attention. That's the thing.
Well, it works better for me. That's just me. But we're allowed to have different points of view on things, to be frank. But this one works for me because between the performances, this is a humor. The fact that the plot genuinely manages some level of suspense.
Yeah, it manages some. A lot of it, and a lot of that really does come down to the fact that Adam West is in full character actor mode, and he is amazing. I've loved some of Adam West's performances outside of Batman and outside of being Adam West. That is a dude I wish had not been as pigeonholed, because man, he is a fantastic actor. What you actually see here on display is somebody that probably could have gone to the top if he had been under the right circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. He had a sense of humor about the place he ended up in. Obviously, he did a lot of voiceover work for Family Guy towards the end of his life, where he portrayed an extremely exaggerated version of himself.
Mm-hmm.
But he also, in this part, manages to pull off kind of like a wounded, psychologically damaged character, and does it with a lot of credibility. He's really good in this. He honestly really is.
Which is kind of the thing that bugs me a bit, I think, with this episode, is that I felt that the tone of his characterization is so much better and nuanced and emotional than the kind of the overt theatrics of Penny doing her thing here. And because Penny, it can be, kind of have that weightier performance, and I feel like it needed more of that rather than the goofball. And I think this is another case of an episode where without Shirley, you really feel the sense of imbalance, because you don't have another person in that room with her to bounce off of that can be, you have the only straight man is the person you're suspicious of. And that doesn't, in my opinion, for suspense comedy, that doesn't work.
Yeah. She doesn't have anybody there in her corner to point out, well, this can be reasonable, and then fly off the handle. The problem is Rhonda kind of exits the episode after the first act.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
She leaves after the first act. She pops back in the fourth act. But she's gone for the entire middle stretch while Laverne's away on vacation with this guy.
Right. Exactly.
And that's not helpful. Because you're kind of stuck without somebody, acting as a sounding board for Laverne. Laverne's stuck there all by herself trying to figure this out. And in some ways it works, in some ways it doesn't. But she really didn't need another person in that room with her.
That's what it feels like. And Arthur is just not the one. Because Arthur's a prop. I loved Arthur's performance. And Patrick O'Moore, who plays him, great job. Is and a hell of a legacy bit player. But it's not the energy that I feel like it needs. And so it just feels there is an element to the energy of Laverne's performance for that second half that is so broad, it comes off as desperate when it kind of doesn't need to, because of how good the performance from Adam West is. And even just the setup. The setup is really a strong setup.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go way, I think I'm going to go way higher on this with you than you, because I enjoy it more, but there are definitely flaws here. There are some obvious flaws here that are kind of endemic when it comes to season 8, and that the fact that you don't get cohesive moments. This is one of them. But
I will say out the gate, though, when talking about Rhonda, the barbs her and Laverne throw at each other are fantastic. How adorably domestic she is. I've never waxed a thing in my life. Yeah, what about your upper lip?
Boom, boom, boom. I liked Enchanted, embarrassed.
Yeah. A mop has no business in hands as lovely as yours. Bam.
Very smooth. Very smooth. Rhonda does look adorable here. Leslie's pulling off that outfit that she's wearing.
Oh yeah, Rhonda is
nice.
Yeah. Leslie is really trying to help make things work this year, and man, because I had heard that was the thing that Rhonda had to step up, and man, Leslie fills the gap very well, especially because it's not even just a lack of Shirley. We also don't get much like Carmine. There's no Edna. Yeah. She's having to fill a lot of roles, including the one that she was kind of made for in the first place.
Yeah. On one hand, she's stuck being Laverne's best friend. On the other hand, she's also being the vixen.
Right.
So it's a combination of things that's going on at the same time. And she kind of has to be everything all at once. You gotta give Leslie a hat tip for that one. She does a good job. I haven't done it in a long time. I think he needs the trapeze Rhonda.
Oh, yeah. Really? Yeah, her delivery of really is glorious. Yeah.
Adorable. Just the entendre of do a triple.
Yeah. How often do you get the chance to go out with a man who can do a triple? Wink, wink.
Boom, boom, boom. And then for absolutely no reason except to show off her acrobatic skills, Laverne grabs a cowboy chandelier and swings towards Edgar.
Yes, exactly. So agile, so graceful. You remind me of someone I once knew.
Your West is starting to get shattering.
It's a little difficult because I've not watched as much Batman as I have Star Trek. That's the catch.
Yeah, that's the catch. Batman TV show is super fun.
Oh, it's a fun
show.
Oh yeah, no, it's a blast. And also, it's the source of one of my favorite White Zombie samples.
Yes. Boy, Rob Zombie was remains such a child of the 60s. All of his specific 60s references that pop up throughout his music.
And if anyone, by the way, can mention what Batman TV show soundbite I'm talking about and what song and what album in the comments, I might actually gift you something, because that one is one that took me years to find out.
Hey, pony up, viewers, pony up. Y'all can do it. I love the fact that when Edgar looks at Laverne and says that she's so elegant, reminds him of somebody. Better not be the fat lady.
Yeah.
Oh, honey.
Oh, goodness.
This is the first time I've ever put a couple together instead of breaking them up. I love Rhonda so much at the beginning of this episode.
It's very cute. And then when she's Laverne says, "Get lost, Rhonda," she goes, "Oh, I'm part of the woodwork," and then she hurries on out. Very cute.
Yeah, it's so cute. It's so adorable. And of course, Frank finds out about the triple.
Yeah.
When possible. Why does he have a trapeze at his house? Why does this guy have a trapeze at his house if he's kind of trying to get away from this whole situation?
Because of the fact that it's one of those, number one is a plot convenience. And number two, he is He is someone that, in the true Gothic spirit of things, that which destroyed him has become a part of him and is required to be in his home, in his soul.
Remember having the line, "You want to see my etchings?" Wow, Frank.
That's a great line. I love that.
That's filthy too, man. Filthy.
Yeah. He goes out of work. He carries a stick. He forgot your name. Don't you even remember your name? How do you like that? You're not going. Do what everybody else does. Sneak. Oh, God.
She's a bloomer, yeah.
Yeah, the way that Edgar charms Frank is amazing.
Yes.
It's a great pleasure to meet you, Mr. DeFazio. Yeah, sorry, I got your hands covered in grease. I'm covered in lard. Don't apologize, sir. A man's hand should reflect his work. And that is like, boom.
Yep. Excellent. Stinking excellent. Absolutely terrific. We learned that Laverne loves carnations here, which I think is interesting.
Uh-huh.
Which is, never has come up in canon before. And I feel fits her.
It really does. Well, especially because you can consider that a carnation is... Most carnations come in the colors that she often has her monogrammed L's in.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice observation. That's very nice. I do like that.
I know someone's going to correct me in the comments, and you know what? I don't care.
Oh, no, you should care. But I think that's accurate because she has multicolored blouses and multicolored L's. So... I know because I own one, and it's brown versus like black or anything. So yeah,
but
I don't think nobody's gonna correct you over that.
But anyway, so
yeah,
I noticed that this episode also has a lot of moments they had to run a laugh track over. So I'm curious if this was another instance of either no studio audience based on, because I wonder with some of these guest actors, it could have just been scheduling, to be honest.
Yeah, and plus they were filming that season 8 film now. Penny wanted out of her contract. The last episode, which is the next episode we're going to review that ever got taped for the show, was Monastery's story, and they had to bribe her to show up. And I will deal with that when I get to Monastery.
Gotcha.
And Gary directed it.
Yeah.
Because it was last minute.
So, on that note, dreaming that he was the Antichrist.
Yeah! That's a great detail. That is such a good detail.
Yeah. Wear clean underwear in case you have an accident. What if I happen to have a nice trip or something? And then I did enjoy that Rhonda was so sweet that she shared the negligee, you know? I wish I could take a little more Rhonda so I could fill this out.
Yeah.
Such a Rhonda type thing to happen. In fact, if you don't mind, I want to tell people that it did happen to me.
Most of that was very, very wing woman Rhonda until unfortunately we get to the point where we learned that about Edgar's background that she does know about and didn't tell Laverne about.
Yeah.
Which tisk, because she does know more about the Louise situation than she initially lets on. She knows that Louise is his partner. He hated Louise. She thinks he hated Louise, and he wanted to strangle her.
Right.
And yet Laverne still freaking goes to this resort.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because that's the point where it's like, no. Then you go get Louis again, and you have him be protection detail on your apartment for the next 5 days.
Yeah. If she knows many, many burly men, I would not do that. You could not pay me to do that. You could not.
Yeah. Edgar would know better than to keep coming around if she turned him down on something. He'd be heartbroken, but it's not like he'd go after her. But that's and that is, I believe, one of the issues with the episode for me is that he doesn't resolve his trauma, you know, because they're kind of trying to do the Hitchcock thing like Spellbound, right? Where he has to confront his, you know, the whole misunderstanding and everything, and his, because the thing is, his behavior is incredibly obsessive about this woman, about the one that got away. And it's very, you know, tragic and heartbreaking, but it's also a case of like, dude, your behavior with Laverne is not cool. And there's never a sense that, other than getting bopped against the wall and knocked out, that he really has a moment of realizing, I have overstepped and I need to let go. It just becomes a magical moment of like, okay, I guess everything's fine now. You know, it's like, it's very, I'm getting ahead of myself, but we'll get to that. But I felt like this thriller setup doesn't have the payoff that makes it work for me. And I think
Yeah.
that's why it started to fall apart. And I mean, admittedly, it falls apart in the bedroom scene coming up in a minute anyway.
Yeah, for me, it continues to work better. It just continues to work better. But, you know, Rhonda knowing parts of this and still recommending Laverne is just yikes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole thing is just yikes. So yeah, we go off to the mountains with Laverne. Who still thinks this is a wise idea. The music box. How many horror movies has Edgar seen?
Seriously. And I guess there must, and that line where she tries to blow it off, where it, I guess there must have been a discount or something like that. It must have gotten a deal on them or something. That's the line.
Yeah. I love Arthur though. Arthur gets some great lines here. He does get some great lines in this episode. And he's very funny.
Yeah, Arthur the butler is fantastic.
Yes,
At least there's somebody around here who doesn't forget my name. For entertainment, I usually stand by the window, hum a little bit, watch the seasons change.
The best line, of course, is, Arthur, you're alive. Thank you for the compliment, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's adorable. Beautiful. So, things start getting more and more tense. The evidence starts to mount up. Laverne finds a poster with Louise's identical face upon it.
Right. So
she comes... Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, we mentioned this earlier as, her identical twin, and I guess what it is, it's the doppelganger, idea,
Yes.
that it's so similar as to be, and again, this is one of those, if you're listening to the show, chances are that this is a common trope of old thrillers and, has been one for, since the old days of whodunits and everything, but it's I felt what was unfortunate about how this is handled here is that there's still... It feels like there's a missing piece of this. I don't know exactly, because I'm not, maybe engaged with those types of mysteries, enough, but there's the reveal and the tension building, but there's something that just doesn't grow. And it could be actually what it is we don't learn enough about who Louise was. Like I'm waiting for the moment, like in Rebecca, about discovering who Rebecca was, or the moment in, the moments in, say, Suspicion or Spellbound or those other thrillers about understanding who those are. And yes, I'm using Hitchcock as the primary reference, but even De Palma has had elements of this where, he still allows you to learn about who the character was.
Yeah. Maybe it needed a tiny little bit more seasoning, but for me, the only really big logic point is Laverne just dumping the quote unquote poison mushroom shake into the bed.
That was weird. Yeah, that's where by that point the pacing had lost me entirely.
Yeah. I can't drink with rodents running around.
Yeah, that was poison mushrooms. There's some really good stuff.
Poison mushrooms is death in your garden.
Yeah, I some of this works. But it's just the whole embarrassment avoidance jokes just kind of got boring, passé, cliche. It weakened the episode for me.
Yeah, for me it works okay. It's paced well. I enjoyed everything but the stupid shake into the bed thing, which I couldn't just truck with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say the fact that she just willingly puts the leotard on is just it's like, is she reincarnated?
I'm gonna go out looking good. Yeah.
You're not looking great.
Yeah. And then the sneaky 70s guitar sneaking in there on the soundtrack.
Waka chicka.
Somebody's got those pedals on their bass.
Yeah, and then of course Laverne takes the time to try avoid him. Get away from me! I'm not Louise.
Right. And then she slams into him, knocks him out, and she does her bit, basically her physical comedy bit. That probably worked great for the promos, but it was kind of disappointing in the episode for me. But yes, and then Arthur appears, and everything's fine, and you dissolve, and yeah.
We find out technically what was wrong was that he was using Laverne in a way to fill the void of Louise.
Right.
He's not really over Louise. And ergo, he needs therapy at this point. You gotta forget about the past and go on with the future. Is that like a rib poke to audience members?
I wonder. I do wonder. And
because that's what they're trying to do, and they don't do it well. This would be sad if it wasn't creepy. I will say that.
Yeah, because the thing is, like I said, there feels like there's missing components to make this character's arc and Laverne's part in it sort of connect and gel, because instead it just comes off as dude, this isn't cool. Oh, he's just a nice man, everything's fine. Are you fucking kidding me?
He needs therapy. He needs therapy, and he may be a nice guy, but he's not processing
No.
very well what happened to him, what happened to Louise.
Yeah. And the implication is this was like years ago.
Yep. I wouldn't say. Would you say decades? At least a decade before this episode takes place.
Probably close to one. At least close to one.
Yeah. Ultimately, what works for me in this episode is that he is so compelling. He is a really, 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 really compelling actor in this episode. He does a good enough job to make this worthwhile. To make this a worthwhile watch. That is just more.
It's worthwhile for Adam and for the character, especially given that it took me a long time to realize, Edgar, like Edgar Allan Poe, they're doing a goth episode. I get it. But I want to rescue him from this episode. I want to put him in a better story. I want to put him in a... Well, okay, here's an interesting thing. I also had issue with the fact that it doesn't spend enough time on the denouement to really give a satisfactory conclusion. And I had this thought. I would have loved to have seen a prank comeuppance to Rhonda's, he wanted to kill Louise, making Laverne all freaked out. Like where Edgar comes on to Rhonda and saying, and then basically makes it imply that maybe Laverne's dead, and then Laverne pops up and scares her. Like...
Oh, that'd be funny.
Because it feels like that would have helped with the sort of the resolution, because otherwise it just feels like, you know what? I learned something today. I learned that I need to move on. Okay, bye now. Here's a bearded lady joke.
Oh, no, that bearded lady joke gives a huge spoiler for an episode that's coming up. As far as we know, Frank is still married to Edna.
Yeah.
The audience has not been told he's not married to Edna yet. So that acts as a huge spoiler, and you're gonna have to pretend you don't know any of this by the time we get to short on time.
Oh boy.
Because that's awful. That's a bad example of all the shows, all the episode order being screwed up for season 8.
Yeah.
Because man, that's so out of order. I like the bearded lady. Frank, you shut up.
Yeah, they had so much in common. I'm making a cue would have been nice. I was very impressed to realize, by the way, that is makeup. That is not a voiceover gag. Did you recognize who that actor was playing Esmeralda?
No, I did not.
That is Devera Marcus. Now, if Devera Marcus sounds familiar, she showed up in season 4 in Who's Papa?
Oh.
That's the hot to trot nurse that almost had a nice little thing going with Shirley in drag.
No, that's terrific.
Yeah.
That's terrific. I had no idea.
So this is her last appearance on the show. She's in another one as well, but she was already on her way to becoming a common character actor through the 80s. She had shown up in Bosom Buddies and goes on to The Joy of Sex, Hellhole as a stooge, Hill Street Blues, Valerie, which get used to Valerie in the Gary Shandling show, and Hill Street Blues. We're going to reference that a lot for people this season. Yeah, and actually specifically the Gary Shandling show 25th anniversary special, which is also directed by Tom Turbovic. And 2 episodes of It's a Living were also on her resume. So that was cool. I liked her. I didn't like the way that the show presented her in a way of like, aha, she's a joke, haha. I love that she was very earnest with her performance. I thought it was very sweet.
Yes. If Frank could have been nicer and more accepting.
Yep.
I will say the genuinely tender romance here going on between Edgar and Laverne does help the episode. That was going to be my last little opinion there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very picky when it comes to these sort of things. I'm sorry to be a snob about this sort of stuff. It's like me with crime stories sometimes, I get a little stuffy. I don't know, just something about it just didn't fully gel. And it's strange because I've really loved the other episodes from this writer. Monica Johnson had been gone for multiple seasons, and this is her 4th and final episode credited for the show. So there's a chance that, this could have been one of those cases where a bunch of this was rewritten, but, and you can see the quality of, and the emotional quality of the work that she does, because she was responsible for the fantastic double hitter of Buddy, Can You Spare a Father and Honeymoon Hotel.
Ah, yes, she was. She was really good, too. Honeymoon Hotel forever.
Even the last episode she did was a quiz show, which was a ton of fun. And
Yeah.
we've mentioned before, Monica Johnson was also after jumping off of around season 2 of Laverne and Shirley, she goes on to collaborate on projects with Albert Brooks, and not just like one or two, but like co-writing Real Life, Modern Romance, Lost in America. And then after the 80s, she pops on to Gary Shandling Show, again, a couple episodes, and then even worked with Brooks on The Scout, Mother, and The Muse, and seems to have retired after that point. So, it's a talented writer, and I wish, I don't know, maybe this is one of those I'm going to come back to at some point on one of the watch-alongs that I like more, but it's weird. The trivia note that is really fun, though, about Monica Johnson to mention is I did a little digging. We will actually run into her sister, Joanne Harris, in a few episodes from now on the show as an actor. And her brother was Jerry Belson, who was a friend of Gary Marshall's from Hey Landlord, and was also the creator of the Tracy Ullman Show and wrote the script for Always.
Oh, that's cool.
So, talented family.
That's super cool. Yeah, extremely talented. Wow.
And anyway, the next thing to note is director Tom Turvik. He has 9 more to go for the show. And the trivia for today is that his first sitcom he worked on after the show was an episode of Alice, the Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, reworking into a traditional sitcom.
Yes, which is really good. It's a really good sitcom. It's very enjoyable. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I enjoyed it.
I have not. That's why, I felt that it was me that my note, I said, way to jump to the bottom, sir. And I mentioned that you privately a few days ago.
And I gasped because it's not correct. Alice is actually a pretty good sitcom. It's got several iconic characters, including Flo, Kiss My Grits. And she is fairly, it is a fairly well-known sitcom that lasted a long time. So that was actually a good move for him.
Nice.
So, yeah.
But the last thing I want to mention before we kind of get into the ranking is Patrick O'Moore, who played Arthur here. This was towards the end of his life. He passed away in December of 83 at the age of 74, but he left a humongous career in his wake. This guy was a bit player going all the way back to screen credits, well, not credits, but screen performances in 1934. Popping up into uncredited roles, some of which, based on some of the characters that are listed, I have a suspicion have dialogue. So these are not like he's an extra. But it goes on through 40s melodramas, World War II thrillers, including a Fritz Lang movie, Cloak and Dagger.
Oh.
Coincidentally, was also in Buona Devil in 1952.
Oh, cool.
And in the 50s and 60s, of course, he comes in as a bit player, one-off actor for things like Twilight Zone, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mannix, and has regular roles from 62 to 1970 for Death Valley Days.
Oh.
In the 70s, it kind of slows down, but he shows up in The Mechanic, my personal favorite Charles Bronson movie, QB8, and an episode of Night Gallery.
Neat. That's cool.
Yeah, so, there are some really cool things about this episode. I definitely think it's worth it, but let's go ahead and rank this. What are you giving this one?
I'm probably going to go way higher than you with a 6. 7. No, this is a 7 for me. This is really good. I like the mystery. I think the mystery works for me. That's just me. The mystery works. I like the chemistry between Adam West and Penny. And I think that Edgar and Laverne's relationship is genuinely tender. There's a couple of plot points that are imperfect here. Excellent acting from Leslie Easterbrook. Super excellent. Some funny lines, some memorable moments. There's a couple of things that bother me, but otherwise I enjoy this one. It's good for season 8. I will say this. It's good for season 8.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not going to be mean to it, but I will give it just a 5 because it's good. It's watchable. Yeah. Maybe a 6 on a good day. And even though I would say for me it was a 5, I recommend people give it a watch as one of the better examples of what season 8 was able to be able to find itself able to do based on the circumstances.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
But anywho, yeah, so with that all said, I guess we're going to have a quick word from our sponsor, and we'll see you back again in a second, and we'll be talking about the horror that comes before us, the Santanico Pandemonium, the Convent of the Holy Beast, the other nunsploitation movie references that I can't think of at the moment. The Devils.
I was good for that.
All right. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us for Night After Night. And if you would like to know more, you can find us at Night After Night Pod on Facebook, Tumblr, WordPress, Patreon, and YouTube, and wherever great podcasts may be found. And if you'd like to get to us a little more directly, we are still on Twitter at Night After Night PC. And up ahead, I hear bells. I have a feeling that after what comes next, Lisa, hell will hold no surprises for us.
All the demons will be here. Ah! I mean, Laverne is taken advantage of by a large group of sailors and is guided by her guilt back to the Catholic Church. The priest takes her confession, arranges for her to go to a convent for a week of rest and relaxation. But will she drive the sisters crazy before she unshards her soul? This is a monastery show.
It's a story of a show that is possibly monastery. It's monstrous and scary.
The nunnery, they called it monastery show. That's just a tiny little hint as how bad things are gonna get.
Yeah, I think that is correct. See you then, folks.
Bye, y'all. And if you're going to get on a trapeze in some guy's room, be sure to bring chalk for your safety. Bye now.